What's up everyone, Kaze no What If is here with What If Luffy traveled back in time. Before we start, if you like the video, like it, share with your friends, comment, and let's start the video. Light shined through the walls and onto Chopper's face. He lifted himself from the mattress and wiped his tired eyes. His arm reached black and he stretched while yawning. Taking a few moments to regain his location, he looked at the sides of his room as if staring through them to see his crew members. I wonder if Sanji's awake by now. Usually the blonde was awake before the others, with the exception of Robin, to prepare breakfast. But now that they were docked on an island, the need for him to prepare food has disappeared. Chopper slid the door and glanced both ways. The inn workers weren't in the greeting room, but at the other end of the hallway, someone was there. Chopper slid the door back into its place and started trotting down the hallway. There were several couches that looked less comfortable than the floor. Robin sat with her legs crossed with a book in her lap. "Good morning," she stated. "Morning," Chopper said with a yawn. Another door opened, and the blonde came out. He was already dressed in his usual suit and blue undershirt. His long legs crossed the hallway into the lounge room. "What a lovely morning, Robin-chan." "It is," she nodded. "Is there anything I could get you?" "There's nothing, but thanks, Sanji-san." "What are you going to do?" Chopper uttered as he looked at the two. Robin sat her book down. The sides of her lip gave a small curl. "The history of this island is minute, so I'll search upon the topic. Maybe there have been more changes than some may think." The reindeer's mouth rounded. "Oh, can I go with you?" "Sure, Chopper-san. Is there something you are looking for?" Another door opened and Nami walked out. Sanji imminently hopped down the hallway to greet her. "I wanted to look around at their medical books. Maybe Ludash." Nami stretched her limbs and cracked her neck. "I need a hot shower." "There's a spot on the hill," Sanji stated. "Hot springs," Robin calmly corrected. "Robin, you want to come with me?" the orange-haired asked. "Me and Chopper-san already made plans." Nami nodded and moved her hair behind her ears. "Guess I will be going." She heard other footsteps, and already knew. "Sanji-kun." "Yes, Nami-swan." "You're not going to peek at me, are you? Or follow me there?" "Where's breakfast?" Luffy jumped out of his room. He looked down and up the hallway. He didn't smell food in either direction. His stomach grumbled and he moaned. "I'm hungry." "Can't you let me sleep?" Usopp moaned as he shifted to his other side. He moved the pillow and placed it over his eyes to stop the sun from burning his eyes. The cyborg opened his door and stepped out into the hallway. "It's morning already, man. Looks like everyone is waking up." "Maybe we shall go get breakfast from the diner," the black-haired girl suggested. "Not everyone." The long nose wrapped his pillow tighter over his head. "Come on, Usopp. Wake up already." Luffy moaned from the outside of his room. The captain slid the door open and pulled the long nose out of the bed. "We're going to miss breakfast. Help. The enemy has taken me hostage." Usopp wriggled about. Luffy dragged him and his pillow outside of the room. Usopp took his blanket and threw it on Luffy. "Shoot him before he gets to his base." Nami's stomach grumbled, and moaned. Maybe she should go to the inn instead of the hot springs first. Chopper's head went back and forth as he tried to decide rather which one he should help. "Come on, Luffy. If he doesn't want to come along, he can come later," Zoro yawned. He poked out of his room, being the one across from Luffy's. "You're up, Murimo." Sanji questioned. No, I'm buried 200 feet below ground, dartboard. The blonde glared at the green-haired, who only ignored it and grabbed his swords. The swordsman shut his mouth and went down the hallway. I wish, the cook followed behind with Robin. The group split once again to do their activities. The two researchers went on their way to the town hall, or library, anything with historical records or other oddities within. Zoro walked around with Frankie as the two were in need of some drinks. The Longnose was sent to give Brooke some food they brought from the small restaurant. Nami went by herself to the hot springs, while halting Sanji from coming along. Without being able to harass the ladies, he somehow was in charge of keeping his captain out of trouble. The blonde stood there mumbling about how this was unfair, and Nami Swan and Robin-chan would need his attention. Hey Sanji. I'm going to go explore. Oh great. Now I have to search for him, the blonde rolled his eyes. You better not get yourself lost, or I'm going to throw you into the ocean. That's mean, Luffy pulled out his tongue. There's not much else to do here. What else could there be other than these fine beauties? He pointed to the girls on their way to work. So civil, graceful, and get back here, idiot. The lad didn't even allow Sanji to continue his speech about the fine arts of women. He raced ahead into the forest line. The cook followed after him with great speed. I did not sign up for this. He ran through the trees and looked both ways. Luffy was almost as directionless as Zoro, he could never find his way back to the ship by himself. Come out, asshole. He shook his head. There were fewer trees, and soon he came to an opening. Flowers bloom with insects buzzing about. The grass was well maintained. Sanji glanced around until he sighted Red. Luffy. What the hell are you doing? Yo. Sanji. Come look at this. He hopped up and down. While grinding his teeth, Sanji went to the captain's location. What is I dash? In front of them was a pin full of goats. What's with these? Luffy reached over the wooden goat and petted their wool. It's rough jeeps. Looks like goats. Those ones must be shaved, he pointed to what he thought were sheeps moments ago. This must be their farmland. Not far away from the town. The black-haired boy bent down, with his knees touching his shoulders. He looked into the goat's eyes. Can I ride you? You're not going to get an answer. Then it's a yes. It took Sanji a moment to understand what was going on. His captain pulled the goat out of its pen, then placed her onto the ground. The goat started to stir from being taken outside of her yard. She looked both ways and her legs started to move. The captain took no time jumping onto her back. The goat galloped forward, moving side to side to get the human boy off of her back. It wasn't working. Luffy. Jump off. Sanji shouted. It caused the herd of goats to stir. They scattered about and made BAA's noises. They were louder than the cook, which caused him to shout louder in hopes Luffy would hear and listen. Captain did not listen. He was roaring with excitement, the goat was the total opposite. She ran towards the trees, Luffy squealed with delight, Sanji shouted with fright. On the other side of that was the city, and crazed goats weren't welcomed. In the city, Chopper stepped outside of the building he found with Robin. It wasn't a library, but it held some insightful books for his research, but the town's records were nowhere in sight, unfortunately. He was able to scan through the pages and took some to study on board the ship. It was run by a witch, who was nowhere in sight, but other items of the household were kept in charge. Brooms sweep the floors and retreat when one turns around. Candles lit up as they walked down the aisles. Luffy. Goat. Chopper. The goat ran forward at full speed. Chopper dropped his books and other items onto the ground, and ran away as the goat chased him. The small reindeer went to the first safe haven he saw, the building he just exited moments ago. Shut the door. It was too late. The goat bolted inside. Luffy was flung off and knocked several items down. A bottle broke and dust fell onto the ground. Papers scattered throughout. Chopper ran. Robin observed. The human was off of her back, the goat thought. She went to the first thing she saw, papers. Books and calendars brightened her eyes as she stormed through the small building. Her teeth sunken through one, and papers scattered from the calendar. All of them fluttered on top of Luffy's body. The dust sprinkled on top of several items that rested nearby. Ocho fleur flip. Hands appeared, and quickly the goat was pulled down by numerous hands. Luffy. Chopper. Robin Chan. Sanji went from angry to confused to lovely within a matter of seconds. Sanji. The goat came and Luffy and tore everything up. Chopper looked bewildered from what had happened within the matter of seconds. The young doctor looked back and forth until he saw Luffy. He ran to his captain. He's not waking up. That idiot must have knocked his head on something, Sanji grumbled. Guess we have to take him back to the ship. A single bottle, broken at the top, rolled across the floor. Several pieces of dust fell from the top and onto the floor. Robin notched the goat with a rope nearby. She could already see it was a bad idea once the rope started to sparkle as it wrapped around the goat's limbs. She could only think of it as a plus as it tied itself up instead of her doing so. Where did she come from? Out past the forest, but I will take her back, Robin Chan. He dropped Luffy's body back onto the ground as he went all lovely on Robin's actions. You're so nice and kind-hearted. Sanji. Chopper squealed. Luffy could have a skull fracture or a concussion. He's made of rubber. He can survive anything. Robin looked at the two, and calmly put her word in. Sanji-san. The blonde turned and looked at her. Please listen to Chopper-san. Usually by now, Luffy-san would have recovered, but he hasn't. I will take her back. Of course, Robin-chan. Chopper's mouth dropped. He shook his head and grumbled about Sanji's reaction. Come on, and let's go get him on the ship. I have my supplies there, Sanji-san. Okay, anything for Robin-chan. He quickly agreed and took his captain's body over his shoulder. Chopper opened the door, allowing the blonde to walk through. He waited for Robin, but she was staring at something on the floor. What is it? He questioned. There may have been a curse on Captain San, Robin stated without taking her eyes away from the mess the goat caused. Everything in here is magical, some sort of way and form. As one would say, not everything is how it seems. She pointed to the rope that fixed itself onto the raging goat. The little reindeer gulped. Something like that was beyond his knowledge. He could only hope it was only a medical issue, and not of one magically. Do you think Luffy's cursed? We won't know until all of the other choices are eliminated. Robin took a hold of the crazed goat and carried it out with 6 of her arms. Chopper shut the door behind her, and quickly caught up to the cook, while shivering at the thoughts of Luffy being cursed. Sanji was only 3 houses ahead of Chopper, which was easy for the small reindeer to catch up. The cook looked a bit peeved at the accident just minutes ago. I told him not to ride her, he grumbled under his breath, referring to the goat and Luffy. Soon they got to the water fountain stationed in the center of the village. They took the way with the archway, and led to the ship. The small boat from before was still docked there. Other than that small vessel, there was only a single fishing boat a few spaces across. When they passed it, Chopper held his nose. It smelled like cheese that has been left out for months with sliced raw salmon on top. We didn't see this here yesterday. I wonder if they have any good ones. Sanji thought out loud to himself. They settled in the boat with Luffy resting on Sanji's lap. This only happened because of Chopper's nagging about keeping his head from moving too much. The ship was unleashed from the wooden post, and drifted into the small waves. The small reindeer transforms into his human point and sails to the larger ship. Brook was standing by the figurehead once they appeared. "Good afternoon, Brook," Chopper greeted once the boat was hoisted back into the sunny. "What did you get there?" he questioned. Sanji held Luffy's body in his two arms. "Baka got into an accident." "What else?" "He hasn't woken up." Chopper shook his head. "Have you tried this, Luffy-san? There's a fresh load of meat. Sanji-san just made breakfast. Actually, now that I think about it, I am still hungry. I have to put meat on these bones." Brook bent over with his own joke. Luffy has still shown no signs of movement. Not even a twitch in his eyelid when food was mentioned. Usopp has already been here. He has and went. How's the island? Old on the outside, a bit strange on the inside, Sanji shrugged. They hold old traditions, Chopper added. Like making sacrifices to the demons. Or run outsiders out of the village. He opened the door to the infirmary as he questioned them. The two walked inside, and Sanji calmly rested Luffy onto the bed. "Neither that we know of. If you want to go into the village, then go. We will stay here and guard the stupid captain and ship," Sanji uttered. Brook nodded, but he stayed there in the doorway looking down on Luffy. "He's gonna be fine, right, Chopper?" Yeah," he paused. Robin's words made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. He took cloth bandages from one of his drawers and started wrapping Luffy's head. Sanji held the black hare's head up as Chopper went around it with the cloth. They positioned it along his jaw and around his neck until the roll of bandages finally ran out. Chopper tied the end piece around another stable piece. "He should be fine for now, Sanji-san, Brook-san. I will stay here and watch him." Sanji nodded, but guilt caused his feet to stay on the floorboards. Unlike the others on the ship, Luffy was usually the first to recover, especially over something as minor as this. Nami Swan did give him the job of looking over this idiot. "Guess I could cook something up to munch on later." "Brook, you should go and tell Nami-san and the others what happened." The skeleton nodded, and once again, it would have seemed he's traveling alone. He sat in the small vessel and unhooked it from Sunny. The vessel dropped onto the waves, which floated against Sunny. Brook grabbed the wooden sticks and started to paddle away, onto the island. Brook first sighted Robin once he stepped onto the island. He was expecting screams of terror, or at least some fright from being a skeleton and all, but none came, nor did villagers. All of them stayed in their houses, which made looking for his crew members easier. The black-haired woman looked up at the skeleton. "Does Dr. San have Luffy-san under control?" she questioned. "Yes, they sent me here to tell the others, but it would have seen you already know." She nodded. "Zoro and Frankie are at a pub, Nami should be returning from his bath dash." Brook already disappeared. The image of a naked Nami filled his mind. Maybe he could even get a glance at her panties. Blood, from an unknown source, began pumping out of where his nose was years ago. "Yo-ho-ho," he laughed in joy. But he halted in his path. The whole village looked the same even though he had already passed 7 houses. He took 5 steps back onto the diagonal road. His skull went 360 and looked for the black-haired vixen. "Robin-san," he called out. "Yes, Brooke-san," she replied from behind a house. "Are you already lost?" She gave a slight giggle. "Where would Nami-san be exactly?" Robin walked over to a pagoda and pointed to the marker over the door. In this case, the marker was yellow. "First, look for a building with a blue marker. Behind it, on a hill, is the hot springs, where she should be." "Arigato, Robin-san." Brooke gave a bright smile and once again his feet were racing along the path. He looked at every single marker, hoping to catch a glance of blue. He saw one, but there was no hill behind it. It was only a pub, and from outside, he could hear the jolly drunks drinking and singing. After visiting Nami-san, "I should come here," Brooke thought. The elder black-haired girl gave a small grin at the skeleton's behavior. She strolled along the small path as a bag swung from one side to the other. The breeze lifted the skirt of her dress above her knees. Inside the bag were a few things she picked up from the store. Odd and ends that may or may not be helpful in the future, only time will tell. Chapter 3. Luffy woke up in a beaten-up vessel. Stupid goat. His lips came together and his cheeks were compacted with air. He stretched out his limbs and looked at his surroundings. Island and sea. Because that wasn't much help, he placed his palm over his forehead to block the sunlight and look out through the ocean for sunny. There wasn't even a dot. There weren't any other islands from his perception, only the endless sea and its sea life. Too bad Usopp isn't here, he frowned. The sniper had better eyesight than him. Where is everyone? Behind him was the island. It was cluttered with houses on each side from the dirt path that led from the docks to within the village. Flags and signs were posted all along the houses. There were businesses with their items for sale outside on display, and there were stands for traveling merchants. On a single brick wall were dozens of bounty posters, all of them ranging from the weakest villain to strongest foe in that corner of the sea. In one whole block of the village was all for individuals' booths and stands, who couldn't afford their own space. He could see several villagers going about their daily activities, but none of them were his crew. Nor were they the villagers of Scammy Island. Mystery, he stated simply. His stomach growled like a lion, and instinct kicked in, look for a pub. What else was he going to do? He lifted his bottom from the small fishing boat and stepped onto the sandy beach that stretched from the docks to the dirt path. This looked mildly, oddly, similar, but he didn't place it on anything. The black-haired boy walked through the streets of whatever this island was. The villagers were normal from the looks of it. He stole a fruit from a stand, and a knife missed his thieving hand. Thief, the merchant called out, but he was already mingled into the crowd. With a smile, he took a bite out of the fruit. Its sweet taste filled his mouth. Yum, he smiled, but it wasn't enough to fill his black hole of a stomach. On his way there, he passed the brick wall of boundaries. There were several papers ripped after the name, only taking the picture and price for their head. But a few of their faces almost stirred a memory, one that he couldn't exactly remember either. Finding a pub was easy. A few buildings down from the fruit stand was a pub. He walked inside. The place was very silent. Other than him, it was a lonely mother in the kitchen, and the kid repeated her movements of making something. Luffy shrugged and took a seat at the bar. Oh. A customer. First one in a week, the woman yelped, I will be there in a second. Which meant more food for Luffy. He grinned in delight as the mother finally came around and took his order. "Gimme all of the meat you got." Her eyebrow raised as she dropped the paper. "All of our meat," she faintly repeated. "That's what I said," he gave her his friendly smile. The woman with long brown hair gave a slight nod and went back to her cooking station. "All of our meat?" the girl questioned in the same repeating manner as her mother. The woman nodded and placed a few stabs of meat onto the grill. The girl, with much resemblance to her mother, looked back at Luffy with bewildered eyes, in which Luffy only replied with an open grin. He gave a chuckle at the girl's reaction. Usually by now, others were used to having large orders from pirates, but it seems this empty pub didn't have much pirate business as any business. A plate was placed in front of Luffy. "Anything else?" "Water," he answered. Without a fork or a knife, he dived in with his 2 hands. He took a large bite out of the piece of meat. From the 2 in the kitchen, it didn't even look like he was chewing it, only swallowing it whole. The mother filled a glass to the brim of water, in which Luffy gulped down between bites. Only an idiot would be stupid enough to interrupt his meal. The door slammed open. A blonde, wimpy-looking, walked inside and placed himself in the middle of the room. The owner became despondent and bug-eyed. The girl in the back of the kitchen gulped as the mother shooed her out of the building using a back door. Behind him were 2 Marines, which caused Luffy to keep his head bent, hoping they wouldn't see him get caught. He would have an angry Nami on his backside. But a voice in the back of his head started nagging him about money once he thought of the orange-haired girl. "Shush, Nami, I got enough." He patted his pocket where he usually kept his walking around money, but he only felt the remaining core of the fruit he stole from moments ago. Now he was going to get caught by the Marines for not paying. "Feed me and my men for free," a blonde stated as he sat down in his chair. The Marine sat down and the blonde looked at his hands. With a jeering glance to the mother, he became cheeky. "It's quite boring. So I've decided to execute her tomorrow. So everyone, look forward to it." The woman became waned and dropped the package of vegetables on the ground. Luffy emptied his plate and dashed for the door, away from the Marines. Just like the old times. He raced down the street, past the fruit stand, and ended up running into an alley. Without much help, he made a full circle back to the pub's alleyway. There was a girl sitting on the steps. "He's still in there, maybe I can get this too if I'm fast enough," the girl mumbled under her breath. She folded the napkin and stuck it inside of her skirt's pocket. Luffy, with zero clue on where else to go, followed the little girl, until she got to a Marine base. He blissfully smiled. Finally he saw one of his crew members. He hopped over the fence that the girl was getting a ladder to go over. "Wait," she cried out, her hand reaching out. Luffy already shot himself through the air and landed right in front of the person. Deadly aura filled the air around them. Smells of sweat, dirt, and other juices filled the air. But even with the horrible scent, Luffy still smiled at his first mate. "Zoro," he became ecstatic, "man, you got caught by the Marines again." Luffy just laughed in Zoro's grave face. Zoro was tied to a wooden post in the middle of a Marine courtyard. Her forehead was covered by a dark green bandana that caused the skin around her eyes to darken. Her arms were tied, on separate sides of the beam, and sweat dribbled onto the ground. Her dirty white shirt had 3 buttons on top that were unbuttoned, allowing others to see the bandages underneath it. Her shirt was dirted, even stained black in some places. Other than above her neck, her entire body hung limp. "What's wrong? Oh, where are the others?" Her face showed no emotion other than glowering. "You're bothering me. Go away." "Oh, "Looks like the thief came here himself," a voice stated from behind Luffy. The black-haired boy turned around and looked at the five. A blonde was leading 4 other Marines, the same blonde from the pub he left moments ago. The Marines moved fast under the wimp's commands, and grabbed Luffy's body. "So you're a devil fruit user? Guess we will have to drown you." The blonde laughed. "Anyone who helps any prisoners will be executed by the order of Captain Morgan." The Marines, who grabbed their sea stone handcuffs from inside, slammed them shut on Luffy's wrists. When the 5 of them were inside of the Marine base, they saw from the window that Luffy stretched himself to get to Zora. So in a panic, they grabbed their only pair of sea stone handcuffs. Despite the lack of devil fruits in the East Blue, they had 1 pair for cases like this. "He's my father, you know." "Hey. No fa-ir," he lumped to the ground as the sea stone touched his skin as he became faint. "I told you to get away," Zora sourly stated. His voice seemed a lot softer. Luffy thought, but shrugged. A cloth wrapped around the darkskin's forehead, a way to avoid sunburns from her being left out there in the courtyard. The clothes were tattered and filled with dust, liquids, and other stuff. Flies surrounded the body as they smelled the smell from far away. "You're that brat from before," Luffy yelped. "Wasn't Kobe with you?" "I have no clue what the hell you are talking about," the blonde petulantly stated. "But I'm Captain Morgan's son, Helmeppo. My father will know what to do about you." The blonde chuckled as he made his way back into the gates. The Marines followed behind with Luffy cuffed to them. "Shit," Zora mumbled under her breath. That blithe boy was now caught in that insolent wimp. "Can't you take these off me?" Luffy begged them once again. The Marines' mouths stayed shut as they followed behind Helmeppo, not even daring to smash Luffy against the wall from his annoying nature. The 4 of them moved in pace behind the blonde as he walked up to the highest floor. Once they got to a certain door, the Marines waited outside of the room as the blonde went in. "Father. Helmeppo. There was a thief at the pub. He stole food and took it to our prisoner, Roronoa Zora. He's a devil fruit user, I saw it with my own eyes. Fill one of our buckets up with seawater and lock him out there with the other prisoner." Helmeppo chuckled and withdrew from the door. He looked at Luffy with a devious smile. "That's why you don't help scum," the blonde smiled and chuckled. He retracted his path back down the stairs, even stopping at his room to get something. "Your room's pink. Girl color." "Shut it. If I tell my father about this, he's gonna kill you slowly and painful." He slammed his door shut and glared at the straw hat wearer. "You are lucky I was the one that caught you, and not my father. You're still going on about your dad. I thought you passed that." Luffy rolled his eyes. "So much for turning into a decent guy. Maybe that's why Kobe wasn't with him anymore." Helmeppo stomped off down the hallway. The Marines gulped as they held onto Luffy. "What the fuck are you doing?" one of them questioned before they caught back up to the onion-haired blonde. Once they caught up, they remained silent as they walked behind the blonde. 2 in the back. "Go get our largest bucket filled with seawater. I want it in the courtyard before we get there." "Roger." The 2 of them walked past him and practically ran down the rest of the stairs. "This is what happens when you mess with me," the blonde stated as he walked down another flight of stairs. The 2 holding Luffy continued. "Actually, don't one of you still have those handcuffs? Cuff his legs as well." They obeyed imminently, even while they were in the middle of the staircase. One of them dropped Luffy's arm and grabbed his handcuffs that were hanging on his side. He bent low to the ground and placed the cold metal on each of Luffy's legs. Once they were back into position, it was difficult carrying Luffy down that flight of steps. His feet dragged down each step, and with more contact with sea stone, he was clinging onto the two marines. Finally they were on the bottom ground. Two large doors laid on each side of the hallway. One was the main entrance, and the other was to the courtyard. The door opened automatically, and they walked through. Luffy's legs made a line from dragging to the barrel of water several feet away from Zora. Her body hung there, overlooking the water as drools formed at the edges. "Thirsty, are we?" The onion fool took this time to taunt the pirate hunter. "You are really stubborn to be alive." He threw his head back and laughed at the misfortune of Zora. Zora didn't move a muscle, but a deadly aura filled around her. "I will live through the entire month." "Get on with it, you fools." He turned his attention to the marines. They looked at each other and to the barrel. Luffy was then manhandled over the slimy water and pushed in. "By tomorrow morning, I guess this will be goodbye." 10 more days left, Zora stated as she glared at the retreating marines. "If only you would live that long." He finally left the courtyard with the other 4 marines. The sun was setting along the fence line. It was silent between them, until Luffy opened his mouth. "How did you get caught?" Luffy's curiosity got the best of him. "None of your damn business." "Actually it's because of me," the little girl from before stepped away from the fence. She walked up to the post and dug into her pocket. Within a napkin, were 2 rice balls. She looked at Luffy. "Zora-san defended me when Helmeppo's pet wolves attacked me. He and his father rules everything on this island." "Weird, I heard this before," Luffy thought. "Zoro, you're my first mate, right?" "As if I would ever become scum like pirates," the green-haired firmly stated back. She turned to the small girl. "What? Aren't you hungry?" Rika picked up one of the rice balls. "I made you some rice balls. My first try." She reached to her tippy toes, aiming for Zora's mouth. "You're going to get yourself killed." "Leave already," she bluntly stated. "But you haven't eaten anything." Zora's eyes widened for a moment, but hardened as she turned her head away from the girl's reach. "I'm not hungry." She took a step back, hurt by the woman's words. But she went back again. Finally, Zora opened his mouth, seeing as how the girl wouldn't move back even if she glared at her. She chewed on the rice ball even though they had an odd taste. Sugar. It was the only thing that she had eaten within the past few days. "How was it, Oni?" "I used sugar since I thought it would taste better." "It thanks for the food." The little girl smiled and fed Zora the last one. Just from seeing food, Luffy's stomach grumbled. He should have stayed longer and ate the rest. "I have to get back, good night." "Girl, can you pull my head up a little?" Luffy asked. His neck started to get closer to the water. Okay." She walked over to him and placed both hands on his jawbone, unable to see another part of his body, and pulled up. His neck stretched and she gasped, almost letting go. "What? See, I'm Rubberman," he laughed. She pouted and dropped his head, which banged against the wooden barrel. "Rika, get out now. They are coming." Zora started with a harsh tone. The little girl dropped her napkin and raced back to the fence. She slowly climbed up and by now, the marine was making his way into the courtyard. Her legs went over the rock, and she climbed down by the ladder. Neither of them said a word as the marine patrolled the area. "I could have sworn I heard something," he mumbled under his breath as he went back inside. "He doesn't remember me." Luffy looked at Zora, and thought back. "Hey, Zoro. If I help you escape, you're going to join my crew. She was called Zoro the Pirate Hunter by others, but those who knew called her Zora. Zora opened her mouth. You want me to become a bad guy? Not a chance. Why not? Pirates are the scum of the world. Why would I want to be one? It doesn't matter. Everyone already thinks you're an evil demon. I don't care what they think about me. I've never regretted doing anything in my life, and I will survive this and do what I want. And I already decided you're going to join my crew. You can't decide that. With that taken care of, Luffy rested his neck and fell asleep in that position. Zoro scowled at his unmoving body. If only he would drown faster. Idiot. Wake up. Zoro grunted. Luffy moaned as he moved his head from one side to the other. He took a deep breath to yawn, and water started to fill his mouth. He spitted it out and held his lips above the water. If it weren't for Zoro, Luffy would have drowned in his sleep. It's morning already. Man, I'm hungry, the boy complained. You're about to drown, you know. And I'm hungry. He paused and strained his eyes to the fence. That girl's back. I brought some more rice balls for you, she mumbled as she once again unfolded a napkin from her pocket. Can you try to knock over this? Luffy questioned, or untie Zoro's ropes. That way he can escape. They are going to catch her for even talking to us. Who knows what they will do if she helps us to escape, Zoro firmly stated. And if she doesn't leave now, she's going to be caught. The girl didn't listen to Zoro. She was listening to Luffy's advice. But the barrel was too heavy and hard for her to knock over, so she started to loosen Zoro's ropes. She got one hand free, but Zoro told her to freeze. The door opened once more, and a marine came out to check up. Rika was hiding behind the large barrel, her head ducked between her knees. Are you all still alive? He questioned out loud. He looked at the surrounding walls, but it didn't look like anyone was there. Helmeppo-san wants to meet with you later, Roronoa Zoro. Be ready. The marine did a quick sweep of the surrounding area and went back in. Something told her it wasn't going to be a good thing. Rika, press on the barrel with your back, Zoro ordered. Last time, she was doing it with her hands. The girl obeyed, and it came an inch off the ground. Water began pouring out of the barrel, making it lighter. Luffy's body shifted and leaned on that side, and soon the barrel knocked down on the ground. The water was absorbed by the ground within seconds. He smiled and began wriggling his way out of the barrel. With some help from Rika, he was able to stand up. Thanks. Now I gotta get these cuffs off and you need your 3 swords. Zoro's eyes widened. This idiot barely knew her name, yet he knows of her swords. Luffy, while walking with handcuffs on his feet, was one of the hardest things ever. He fell down on his knees and began crawling. It was making more progress than it was taking steps. The door opened, and he wiggled inside. Go to your mother, things are going to get out of hand soon. The girl was still trying to undo the other knots, but it wasn't working. Oni don't die, she left finally and Zoro's side. Whatever that guy was doing was gonna be dangerous. There was no way she was going to stand there and die. / 2 little girls fought on top of a hill. Their swords clashed and one of their swords broke in half. She fell back into the grass as the taller one pointed the tip of her wooden sword at the minor. My 2001th victory. Her sword thrust into the ground right between Zoro's neck and shoulder. Damn it, the smaller one cursed. Liquid gazed at her eyes. I was so close. The one who should be upset with both of us. When we go up, we will graduate and become weaker than males. Unlike you, I'm already starting to become weak. You want to become the world's greatest swordsman, right? Papa said girls never become number one, but I want to become the world's best too. That's unfair. You said that after you beat me. That's why we have to fight harder. Harder than any other male. So if one day I beat you, not because I trained hard, but because you grew weak. She lifted up the sword and stared at the blue-haired girl. Let's make a promise. One of us must become the world's number one swordsman. It's going to be a race to see who gets there first. Stupid Zora. You're the one who lost to me, not the other way around. Kuina grinned, I promise. Zora-san, something terrible has happened. Kuina, some thugs beat her up on her way to the next town. What's wrong with her? She's unable to move any part of her body. But we just made a promise last night. To become the greatest swordsman. This can't happen to her. Zora looked up at her teacher, Kuina's father. Zora, humans are really fragile beings. An accident from decades ago can still restrict a healthy person today. Sensei. Please give me Kuina's sword. She bowed her head to the ground as tears swelled up. Yes, he stated calmly. I will become even more greater. I will become the world's greatest swordswoman. So famous that even heaven will hear my name. / The keys were no problem to find. They were stationed along a wall with handcuffs for fast arrests. He leaned against the wall and edged his way back onto his feet. His hands reached out and he grabbed the keys, dropping them onto the ground. Luffy bent low and grabbed the metal items once again, turning them into the handcuffs that surrounded his feet. Clang. Clang. Cling. Clank. All of them were unlocked, and now he was free. He had to find Zora's swords. Which would Helmeppo's room? The one with the pink door. He raced up the steps and down the hallway. He halted once he passed the pink door. Retracing his steps, he came in front of it. He turned the doorknob and looked inside. Helmeppo was looking into the mirror as he was picking out his outfits. Today's execution is gonna be great, he chuckled. Zora's not going to know what hits her. Luffy's hand stretched and smacked the blonde right in the jaw. He held onto the spot and looked at Luffy. So I did go back in time, he mumbled under his breath. The wimpy man shivered and raised his arms to protect himself. Why you hit me? But I'm Captain Morgan's son. I am gonna tell my daddy to you and he will execute you. Where are her swords? The rubber man demanded. Timidly he pointed at the 3 swords by his dresser. There. Don't hit me. Luffy hit him again. This time was a little harder, that caused him to get knocked out. Ops. Guess I'm stronger than then. He left Helmeppo on the ground and went to the window. Marines were surrounding Zora and the little girl was nowhere in sight. Even Captain Morgan was there. The Marines were around Zora, ready to take and execute her. Luffy opened the window and Gum Gum Rocket jumped out of it, landing right in front of Zora. You really do have a devil fruit. Hey, Zoro. If I give you your swords, you are going to join my crew. Unless you want to be killed by Marines. Which do you choose? Blackmail, she grumbled under her breath. I'd rather become a pirate than die by their hands. She used the sword and sliced the last remaining rope. She lowered onto the ground. All 3 swords were in her hands and 1 in her mouth, but let's get one thing straight first. Today I'm opposing Marines, making me into a criminal. So I'm becoming a pirate to follow my ambition. I don't care if my name is clean or not, as long as my name will become famous. To be nothing less than the world's greatest swordswoman. She made eye contact with him. If you do something that ends up in the way of my goals, you will apologize to me by the end of a sword. All right, Captain. World's greatest swordswoman sounds good to me, Luffy smiled. Anything less than the best to be on the Pirate King's crew. Zoro simply replied with her signature smirk. Don't stand there. Shoot. Morgan ordered, you idiots. Bullets sprung from their guns, all of them were aimed at Luffy and Zoro. Luffy smiled and stretched his body around the swordswoman. Their bullets halted as there was no chance against Luffy's rubber. What are you? I'm Luffy D Money, the next king of the pirates, and the rubber man. He chuckled as he went back into his normal form. All of their shocked faces entertained him. He missed this. Usually his enemies already knew of his powers and the shock wasn't there. I told you he was a devil fruit - one of the Marines uttered as he shivered. He was looking down at his feet, and within a moment, another gunshot, a body laid on the ground. Luffy's arm sprawled out and smacked Morgan right under his neck. There wasn't enough force to kill him, but enough to make him fall back and take a breath. The two made eye contact once more, and a conversation played between them, ended with Zoro nodding and charging forward. Her sword was met with Morgan's battle axe for an arm. Luffy could personally knock them all out with one sweep, but he kept them at bay while Zoro battled against the Marine captain. From past encounters, he knew that he shouldn't harm these Marines, especially after what Morgan displayed by shooting his own men. He shrugged and maintained a safe distance away from them and Zoro's battle. Their blades clashed, but Zoro's extra one made the deal. In one swoop, he was defeated by her hands. The other Marines dropped their weapons onto the ground, not even daring to fight once their own captain was defeated. Captain Morgan, he was no match for Zoro. They rejoice in the pub. Rika's mother, thankful for her daughter's well-being, forgave Luffy for his dash earlier. And with her daughter's savior saved from execution, their meals were in the house. I was getting worried when the Marines began announcing your execution, she said as she sat down on a plate in front of the pirate hunter. But now it's all over. I don't have to worry about my little Rika so much. The whole town is indebted to this duo. We didn't do nothing, Luffy simply told her. If it wasn't for her, I would have drowned. Drowned. Zoro looked across the table at this odd person. The bandana was now tied to her forearm, and her short curls of green hair went from one place to another. She brushed one side back behind her ears, which came back within seconds. She leaned forward with her arms on the table. How many do you have on your crew? Was 8, but for now, you're the only one. He gave her an idiotic smile, but she was more or less wondering if he was just an idiot or an inmate from an insane hospital. So it's just me and you. Yup, until we find Usopp, Nami, Sanji, Brew - he was going to list all of his crew members, but Zoro stopped him there. What about your ship? Usopp has it? What have you been sailing in then? A fishing boat, he pointed out the window where the docks could be seen. His small fishing boat sat limply as if ready to break. Zoro threw her head back and laughed. What the fuck did she get herself into? It's already too late to turn back down, she could only go along with him until their paths divide. Won't be much when you're on the Grand Line. Just wait and see, he gave her a giant grin and thought about Sunny and Mary. Now that he has Zoro, what happened after he got Zoro? He tried to remember an event that happened so long ago. He knew Nami was next, but where did he find her? Yo, Luffy. Something wrong? She leaned over the table and raised one of her eyebrows. I'm just hungry, he replied. There's no more meat, Rika said. You ate it all already? Guess we should go then. Yeah, before Helmeppo wakes up. Zora and Luffy stood up from their seats at the table and pushed the chairs in. Zora's swords shifted in the green haramaki around her waist. The two of them walked out where they were met with numerous marines and villagers. We're already leaving, Luffy uttered and walked through the crowd. We are grateful for what you have done, but you he paused in mid-sentence. They were already leaving without much resistance. We won't report this to the headquarters, he yelled, but they were already walking down the street. The two folded their arms behind their heads and trotted to the dock. The Marines were still following them. Zoro looked out into the sea. It didn't look like they brought any superiors with them. The black-haired boy picked a fishing boat that had seen better days. It wasn't much, but it was better than the ones she has been sailing in. At one end of the boat was a barrel of apples with a rough blanket on top. He's not even prepared to be a pirate, she thought. Bye Rika. Marines I don't care about. Rika's mom. Fruit merchant. Luffy waved them goodbye. You still haven't paid me, the fruit merchant squealed. Someone behind him smacked him on his head, his wife. They just saved the island. The Marines crowded around the shore and saluted them as their boat drifted between the waves. Never thought I would see Marines saluting pirates, Zora smiled and chuckled. This boy was a different kind of pirate, all right. Luffy joined in with her. The two of them were at sea on the small vessel. Luffy's legs were stretched out and his head was hanging outside of the boat. Zora folded her arms behind her head as a pillow and quickly fell asleep. The blanket was in the middle of the boat, only able to cover their legs and not much else. Her haramaki and swords were at her side, tangled around one of her legs, and bandages were loosened as well. They slept peacefully on their first night together. As they drifted off into their dreamlands, something kept bugging Luffy. Why doesn't Zoro remember him? Where are the others? Do they remember him? And why did he wake up from here out of anywhere? He didn't want to think about it, but it bugged him. It seemed like he time traveled back to the starting point. Maybe this time it will be different. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked it, subscribe to my channel for more fan fictions like this, and goodbye.